and they repeat the same error again, because what they're doing is they're constantly reinforcing that lack of trust within themselves because they don't trust the decision that they make. And also it's that fear that they're not going to make the right decision. So therefore, then if they don't make the right decision, then they're not going to perform it well, therefore they're going to fail. And then that's not good enough either, because then they see themselves as a failure. And gee whiz, we're off, on this feeling of not feeling good enough because you haven't made the right decision. Because you haven't made the right decision, then you've felt like you're a failure. Then because then you feel like a failure, then you move on to thinking that you're not good enough, and then you start second guessing why you're playing, and it goes on and on and on, doesn't it? You're not too late. You're not behind. You're not invisible. You are rising. Welcome to Ambition Habits. This is the podcast where women rise together. Here, confidence isn't taught, it's remembered. Belonging isn't earned, it's honoured. And legacy isn't a someday, it's a rhythm we build now. So take a breath and let's begin. Hey there, Tiff here. So lovely to see you. Tiff here from Ambition Habits. And what we're going to be talking about today is you learning to trust the decisions that you make when you're out there playing in your sport. And I find that that's a really big thing with people, is that they actually lack the decisions that they make. They lack that trust of that decision that they make, and second guess themselves. And then, they end up not getting the result that they're after, because they have that doubt, that self doubt that creeps in, and they're like, oh no, I don't think I should be trusting that decision. Oh no, what if it's not right? So therefore, then they second guess it, and then they don't follow through with it, and then they don't get the result, and then they wonder why, what happened, or they go, oh gee, I should have trusted it in the first place. But then they go and do it again. And they repeat the same error again, and then they go and do it again, and they repeat the same error again, because what they're doing is they're constantly reinforcing that lack of trust within themselves because they don't trust the decision that they make. And also it's that fear that they're not going to make the right decision. So therefore, then if they don't make the right decision, then they're not going to perform it well, therefore they're going to fail. And then that's not good enough either, because then they see themselves as a failure. And gee whiz, we're off, on this feeling of not feeling good enough because you haven't made the right decision. Because you haven't made the right decision, then you've felt like you're a failure. Then because then you feel like a failure, then you move on to thinking that you're not good enough, and then you start second guessing why you're playing, and it goes on and on and on, doesn't it? But you actually think that you're actually not making a decision because you're not trusting that decision that you make, but really you are making a decision. You're actually making a decision not to trust yourself. And therefore, then you just like, it's almost like you just close your eyes and you hope you just get it over and done with. But that's still making a decision. So you haven't gone with the decision that you've actually made, because you've second guessed it. And then because you've second guessed it, you've just closed your eyes and you go, okay, I'm going to hope that it works. That's the kind of thing. It's like the blind, it's not even blind faith, because you don't really trust it. There's no faith there, right? There's no belief there. So what is it that we need to do to really develop that trust? Like, how are we going to do that? And that's a really good question on how we're going to do that, because I'm going to give you an example of um, people that I've taught in golf, and also people that I've taught during golf tours and what have you. I see this a lot in putting, and this is around the lack of trust, the lack of faith, and I see that it's quite common. So it's more about, I believe, it's the fact that these women don't actually trust that the decisions that they actually make within themselves, because there's that fear of not being good enough, fear of failure, um, fear of judgment, fear of even comparing themselves to others, fear of it not working the way that they think it should be working, fear of not being perfect. There's all of that that then comes into that. So, what happens when I teach people to play golf, like when we're working on the putting aspect, is that I'll get people to line the ball up. So, you've got a line on the ball, get them to line the ball up, and then I get them to get themselves set, check their line so they stand behind the ball, check the line of where they need the ball to go to, and then get set and then do their putt. Now, what happens when they go from behind the ball and then they step over the ball, getting set to perform their shot, is that then they move the ball. So, what does that tell you? They've moved the line on the ball when they've stood over it. What it tells you is that they don't trust that decision that they've made. So then they've changed the position of the line of the ball, they've played their part, and they've missed the hole. So they don't even know whether their first decision was correct or not, because they didn't even give it a chance. They didn't give it a chance to see if it was going to work. Why? Because they didn't trust that decision. Now, what happens when you putt? This is a prime example of what happens in golf. When you stand behind the ball, you can see the line. When you stand over the ball and get prepared to play the shot, the perception is different. Now, because then the perception changes, that's when people start to second guess themselves. I see that all the time. And so when I was learning to play golf, in the beginning, it was me about, not trusting the decision, lack of confidence, lack of whether it was right, like I didn't know whether I'd made the right decision or not. Same sort of scenario. But over time, when I really started to work on this lack of trust within, right? Lack of confidence within, lack of not thinking that I was ever going to be good enough. There's all that self talk that went on, was that I realized it was the fact that I just didn't trust the decision that I made in that moment. So, what I then decided to do was every time that I'd line the ball up, and then I'd go and stand over the ball, I would trust that, because then I look at the feedback that I get from that. It gives me the information. I let go of worrying about whether I'd get the ball in the hole or not. I'd let go of worrying whether the line was correct. I would let go of worrying whether the stroke, like the length of the stroke, was correct, because then what I was looking at was I was looking at feedback from that decision that I made, so that I would know whether it was the correct decision or not. If I missed, I just had, obviously that gave me feedback. And when I was playing in a competition or a tournament, it still gave me feedback of, okay, you didn't get your line right. That's why you missed. Right. So it's learning from what's going on around those decisions, but it's about learning to trust the decisions that you make. So, how I want you to be looking at this process of learning to trust the decisions that you make is that I want you to understand that every time that you choose or not choose to play a shot a particular way, or play a line a particular way, or um, however you operate in your sport, you're still making a decision of not to trust that decision, or a decision of trusting that decision. A lot of the time I see it's people trusting not to trust, if that makes sense. And how I want you to look at it is, I want you to look at it as feedback. It is feedback that you are Giving yourself the opportunity to trust the decision, giving your body the opportunity to perform and trust that decision, giving your instincts an opportunity to trust that decision, giving your experience the opportunity to trust that decision. So, why does trust matter so much when you play sport? Well, you actually hesitate less. You actually stop second guessing yourself and you actually start playing. You're actually going with your decisions because you're not hesitating, you're not doubting. And the thing is when trust gets blocked, then we start overthinking, we start worrying about being wrong, we start worrying about not being perfect. And sport is really not about being perfect. It's about being present. It's about being present in the moment. It's about you trusting the decision that you make in that moment. And then what happens from that is that you just get the feedback of how you perform that particular shot in time. So I'll give you another example of information overload, right? Not clear on a decision, not really sure what to do, too much information, and then don't perform the shot. So, what happened when I played in a tournament, mixed pairs tournament for Law Bowls just recently? And the friend of mine that I was playing with, he came down to the head of the bowls, and he wanted to have a look and make decisions on what to do, how he was going to play his next shot. Now, what ended up happening is he's talking about three options, and then he walked away, still having those three options in his head on what he could do. When he stepped on the mat, he was still trying to figure out which option he was going to take. He wasn't really sure on which option what to take, and then he just bowled it. Now, when you're not clear, you hesitate. When you're not clear, you are not focused. When you are not clear, you self doubt. And so, what happened? He didn't even come up with the shot that he was after. Out of those three options, nothing worked because he wasn't clear about what he was going to do when he was ready to play his shot because he overthought that. So, it was really about him trusting one decision that he could make and then fulfilling that decision versus I've got three options here. Which one will I do? I'm not sure. Bang. Makes it difficult then, doesn't it? So let's do a little bit of reflection now. I want you to be thinking about a time when you played your sport, like a moment in time when you played your sport where you felt like it was perfect. You felt like everything just flowed with ease, and you felt like your mind was clear, and you felt like, wow, this is possible. I can do this. What were you thinking? Was it the fact that your head was clear? Was it the fact that you were calm and relaxed? Was it the fact that you were staying in the moment, you were focused on that particular thing that you had to do in that time? Was it the fact that you just made the one decision and then you just went with it? What was it? What was it that you felt? Because if you can reflect back and go into this is how I felt when I played this, or felt like effortless shot. It felt flawless. It felt easy. What was going on for you? That's what you've got to be looking at. Because then if you know what happened in that moment and how you felt and how you thought, then what then happens for you is that you can go back to that moment and you're like, I can repeat that because I have done that. You've actually got the experience, you've actually got the feedback that it actually does work. And so that you can then go, okay, I can do this again and I can repeat this again and again and again. And it is possible, but it's trusting decisions, isn't it? It's staying in that moment and trusting that decision. Big thing about sport and sports performance, I believe, is really simple things. staying calm, playing from a state of peace, having good, easy rhythm, taking it slow and steady. It's as simple as that. And then the other thing on top of that, the ice cream on the cake, so to speak, and the cherry on top, is really then trusting the decisions that you make. It can be as simple as that. I just think that people make it a bit too complex. They make it too hard for themselves. So we need to make sure that we're getting into that feeling of being very clear on decisions that we make. We're staying focused. We're working in our routines. We've got cue words or cue phrases that we say to ourselves. Like it's not just one thing that everything just all comes together. It's a series of little routines, a series of little words. It's a series of um, moments of calmness. It's combining all of that together. Yes, being mechanically efficient as well, so that you're executing the shot the way that you need to, or you're performing that kick that you need to, or you're hitting that ball the way that you need to, or doing that kick or punch or whatever it is. You know that you're in that moment, but everything feels so easy for you. You feel calm. You feel in control. You know what you need to do because you've made that decision and you've gone with that decision. There's complete clarity there. There's complete trust there. And that's what we need to make sure that we have. So let's come up with a really simple ritual for trusting decisions. How are we going to do that? How are we going to trust a decision? Okay, let's do something really, really simple. I'm going to suggest to do something like this. I want you to put your hand over your heart, take a breath. I trust myself to choose. That's the first thing that you're going to do. Okay, you're going to take a breath. I trust myself to choose. Then what you're going to do, the second thing what you're going to do is then make the decision, right? So we want clarity. So make the decision on what you're going to do next. So you're like, I'm going to line the ball up this way, or I'm going to bowl the ball down that way, or I'm going to serve the ball down the center, right? So you know what you need to do. And then the third thing that you're going to do, just before you do it, you're going to take a breath, play the shot. Okay? Play that line that you want to play. Play that shot, that serve down the center that you want to play. Do that punch that you need to do. Do that kick that you need to do. Take your time. Okay? So I'm just going to repeat it all again just really quickly so we reinforce that for you. Hand on heart. I trust myself to choose. Take a breath. I trust myself to choose. Number two, make a decision on what you need to do. One decision, be clear on it, very clear. Number three, take a breath and perform the shot with calmness. Okay? That's all you need to do. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. It's really important that you're going to now learn to trust your decisions, because all we want to do is trust, get feedback, trust, get feedback. That's our mission today. Hope you got a lot of value. Love it if you could leave a comment down below wherever you hear this podcast. And I'd like you to dream big, believe in you, go after your dreams. This is where women rise together. Love to see you real soon. Take care. Bye for now.